Coach, and then open for questions.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, good week. Kind of a long week now. Kind of we were in a little bit of a rhythm, and then now we get the week off. Coming off the Pitt win, obviously that was a good win. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, but good solid win to go up there. The backyard brawl, hadn't got to experience one personally. I went to the football game and got that side of it, but not, as the head coach of a team. So, yeah, felt good about that one. And then, we have the week off before we play Youngstown, so it's a little bit of a different week when you kind of have, I don't know if momentum's the right word, but probably a little bit of momentum, and then you kind of have to get back to practice. So we're talking about practice again this week a little bit, which from a coaching standpoint is great, but trying to keep them motivated sometimes isn't the easiest once you get going. But again, yeah, I felt really good about the Pitt win. Played really well to start that game. Forced a ton of turnovers, got up 19 early in the second quarter. Little foul trouble, kind of messed with the rotation some, and then we just really didn't play well. Even watching it back in that second quarter and then the beginning of the third, just kind of lost our energy. They went to zone, kind of slowed us down, probably got us on our heels just a little bit. Would have probably done a few things different had it, looking back at it from just a coaching standpoint through that stretch, but then really liked how we responded once they made that big run in the third quarter, and then kind of felt pretty good about it closing it in the fourth quarter, made enough plays, got enough stops, those types of things to, feel pretty good about it. So we got a Power 5 road win under our belt fairly early in the season. That was our only crack at one of those, so we needed that. But yeah, players felt good about it, and I think we're in a good spot, hopefully getting a little bit healthier. I think we'll be at full strength when we play Sunday, barring any setback between now and then.
Full strength.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, Tirza should be back, we think, on Sunday.
I know you inherited this schedule. Would this have been a week you would have had a game slotted in here if you had been able to get one?
Yeah, we tried. This was 15th, 16th kind of it was a date we had on the calendar as a potential game to play. We just could never find one. I think at one point we did have one, just never got the contract finalized. But yeah, this was definitely a little bit longer break right now than is ideal.
Rebounding, obviously that's going to be an ongoing theme this year. Can you do anything schematically, or is it going to have to be everybody gang rebound, the whole deal? Is that how it's going to have to be?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, Tirza is our best rebounder, so getting her back will help. It doesn't solve all the problems. We knew this. We weren't a great rebounding team a year ago. We tried to address it a little bit. Thought Danelle did a pretty good job rebounding for us when Danelle ended up coming in and playing all the fourth quarter and even a little bit of the third. But just that bigger body, she didn't get the rebounds necessarily, but she, prevented some of their elite rebounders and allowed Jordan Harrison to go kind of clean some rebounds up. So we're going to have to do it by committee. We'll have to rebound a little maybe unconventional at times, with some of the guards having to maybe get a bunch of rebounds for us. Bigs, maybe it's just hold your girl off the board so somebody else can clean it up, as we like to say. So yeah, so getting Tirza back, and we'll get better at it. We don't understand it all yet, and there are some rotations. If you're playing zone, you don't have a man necessarily that's standing right there in front of you. So work in progress. I think we'll get better at it. Is it going to be a strength of this team? I'm not sure I would go that far yet, but we've got to at least be able to battle and hold steady so we can maybe, get some extra possessions and turnovers in different areas.
I was going to ask you, if you're not a great rebounding team, and you can't be, obviously you work it, but is there other ways you can get possessions and try to do things to protect that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, so turnovers and steals is the other way you look at it. So, you need possessions to equalize in some capacity, or ideally have the upper hand in that. So that's why if we can, and rebounding is really offensive rebounding. Rebounding for me, if you just look at total rebounds, I'm not overly interested in that. If we're turning people over, they're not going to get shots. So we don't have opportunities to get rebounds. So I think you have to be a little careful just looking at overall rebounding, and maybe more like rebounding rate or offensive rebounding are the things that are really important to me and the way we play. And then, of course, like turnovers and steals, those types of things is how you make up for rebounding a little bit.
Mark, you said after the Loyola game you didn't show everything offensively yet. How much do you still have, and when do you kind of have a call to break that out in a game situation?
Yeah, no, I don't. We still haven't. There's certainly we don't have a ton in, but what we do have in, there's a big chunk of the playbook that we haven't had to run. We've played against a lot of zone. I meant to look it up. I bet we've played probably against 70% zone through the two games right now, 30% man. So that's, even though we play zone, it's still a little tricky, and it's not our zone every day that we're, when we're going against an opponent playing their zone. So that's, it's taken us a little while. I don't think we've scored it great. I honestly was a little disappointed that we turned Pitt over 28 times and only scored 71 points. Like, that should have been up in the 80s, mid 80s or higher based off the amount of turnovers. And I think it was 18 steals that game too. So we got to get going a little offensively. We got to play through the paint a little bit more. We're a little, our guards are playing well and shooting it well, and that's great, but we're going to have to find some paint presence at some point too. So that's kind of been a little challenge that we've been working on this week.
Kaya Watson has changed her body. Was that on her? Did she do that? Was that something that you suggested? How did that come about?
No, I would always put it on the kid for sure. I mean, she's worked really hard and had a great summer. And, I didn't know, I'd seen pictures of her, of course, before and watched it transform a little bit over the summer. But no, Kaya's worked really hard, and, it's paying off. And, she had a fantastic game at Pitt, and I told her we needed every bit of what she gave us, but she's kind of doesn't, just kind of wants the game to come to her. I feel like the more you press her, I don't know that she plays as well. I think she'll just kind of take what, the defense gives her. She'll create some stuff with her defense and her effort. But yeah, that motor is really good right now. Her understanding, her IQ is really good. Pretty easy kid to coach, just pretty even keel again, like a lot of our kids. I look at her sometimes and, Kaya, we good? You in there? Like, and then you ask her a question and she's perfectly fine, but she's just pretty steady Eddie. But yeah, kid you trust for sure to make the right play.
Is there something she does that we don't detect or see that you go, wow, that's really good?
Yeah, there's probably some, rotations on defense that just, you weren't really studying it or didn't know what she was supposed to be or where she was supposed to be. But she made a play in that Pitt game where we actually were wrong in our rotation. We were in zone, and I think it was her and Donnell both kind of had closed out to the high post, and then they threw it over the top of us, and the kid had a layup. And so Kaya was up there with Donnell, comes off of her kid, and then challenges the kid at the rim and gets a block shot. She's falling out of bounds, tries to save it. They called her out, but, it would have been, had she not been out and saved it, it would have been just an absolutely unbelievable play. But it was already just crazy how she went from the closeout to the block shot to save us 2 points. And that was a fourth quarter play. Just simple stuff like that she's just relentless in her effort. But I think that, to your first question, now she has the body type to allow her to play those big minutes.
Coach, I'm sure it's a pretty hectic offseason trying to get acquainted with your players, trying to get comfortable with them. You got 2 games under your belt now. A game in the Coliseum and a road Power 5 rivalry win. Have you ever kind of had a chance now to kind of think, well, here I am, I'm at the Power 5 level, and, here we are?
Yeah, early on, yes, and probably more so actually before the first game than I have since then. Since then, we're just coaching basketball like we coach basketball, I've been doing for the last, 20 plus years. But yeah, playing the backyard brawl was great. Power 5, first time I got to, do that on the road, I guess. So maybe for a brief moment I thought about that, but really no, not a whole heck of a lot anymore. It's just playing basketball and trying to, again, focus on this team and how we get a little bit better. But, I've kind of been able to take the reflection piece out now and just kind of do the job at hand.
I know it's early in the week, and I'm sure you're probably working on you and fixing the Pitt stuff, but what can you tell us about Youngstown State?
Yeah, I don't know that I can tell you too much yet. Some of the staff has started. We're off tomorrow, so I'll start that scout tomorrow, and then we're, if time permits, we're always 2 days in front of the game is when we start, an opponent's scout. So that would be a Friday, Saturday, prep. So Thursday gives me the time. So I know a little bit about them. They have, I think, 4 or 5 West Virginia kids on their roster. So they'll be excited to come back. I do know that they have some size. One of those is a 6'5" kid that I think went to Tennessee out of high school from the state of West Virginia. So we'll have a paint presence to defend. I know they have another 6'4" kid, I think, off the bench. I think they're veteran. I think they've been there. So they'll be a well-oiled machine for this time of year. And I think that's what you see. You just have teams and upsets this time of year because you have that, some of these mid-majors even beating, Power 5s is they're veteran. They've been around. Coaching, staff that's been there, although the Youngstown coach has stepped down, so they have an interim coach at the moment, but he's been there for a minute. And so they just know they're like well-oiled machines. Colorado women beating LSU the way they did. Well, Colorado's veteran, and they've been there, and they were in the Sweet 16, and LSU's trying to figure it out, so the timing worked, and Colorado played great. But they were clicking, in that game. And so I think Youngstown will present that challenge a little bit like a Loyola, just from a returning and a coach that's been there. But they're picked, I think, to win the Horizon, if I'm not mistaken. I know I saw the bracketology yesterday. Our coaches were talking about that, and they were picked they were in it. So they're doing something right now. And like I said, I'll learn more tomorrow and Friday.
I would anticipate, too, since you've seen it, probably a little bit of zone. You probably see some zone at some
Yeah,
point.
they don't play it very much, but neither did Pitt, and Coach Verdi's passed. I think he was a 88% man guy, or maybe more. I can't remember what it was. I mean, we were not necessarily expecting to see zone. But, a lot of times early coaches like to play it because the opposing coach we don't prepare for that a ton early in the year. You spend all summer playing man and working on your man offense, and then we get here and everybody throws zone at you. So thankfully we do play quite a bit of zone, so we have some comfort there. But again, when it's not your zone, it's not what you're going against every day, it still feels different.
Well, I guess the thought, too, would be to slow you down.
Well, I think that's what Pitt's was. I mean, we were turning them over, we were going in man, we were moving it, we're spacing it, we're pretty quick at the guard, and so I think they ran their little token press, which they never trapped one time out of it, but it was just to show us something so we didn't flow nearly as quickly, and we didn't, and that's why I said I'd probably do some things differently to just kind of get some of our flow and rhythm back a little bit quicker. But I think it was a 22-2 run that they went on, and you don't usually win when the opposing team goes on a 22-2 run, but thankfully we did enough early.
Mark, how much early in the season do you experiment with rotation, substitution patterns, and when do you kind of want to have those defined a little bit more?
Yeah, well, the sooner the better, but yeah, we're experimenting like crazy right now. Like I said, Danelle played 13 minutes in a row to end that game, and no offense to her, but I didn't know if she could play 13 minutes in a row at a game, in a close game like that. I thought she would be much more in the 3 or 4 minutes at a time type kid, but no, so she did a great job, but I wouldn't have thought that was probably going to happen. So I keep telling them, guys, like, there'll be lineup differences, foul trouble will dictate some of this. I mean, at full strength for us is 10 players, so we got 10 options, so we're going to still work through that. I don't know what they are completely yet. I've told some of the team that, just stay with it. If you don't like your role, it can change. We are not completely settled yet. But ideally, I would love to be settled and already have it figured out. But just we're probably too new to know that quite yet.
Typically, what is it, 8 usually used in conference play? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we could go anywhere from 8 to 10. I mean, if we have 10, in years past we've had 10, and our bench was as good or better than other teams that we played, and I would go 10 deep. So we can go 10 deep. We could probably go 8, 9 once we get into the league late in the year, conference tournament type. You can get it to 7, 8 probably by then, and you're in pretty good shape. But at this point, we're not in great game shape yet, so we got to get some kids a little rest here and there too. JJ and Jordan, we got to keep an eye on those two. Just smaller bodies, asking them to do a lot the way we play, and so we got to keep an eye on them and get them as much rest as we possibly can.
So I guess the message to them is earn your trust and get in that mix. Right now is the time to do that.
Well, yeah, I think that's really, whether it's now or any time, is we're trying to earn each other's trust. I keep saying every time we take the court, practice, or games, I'm learning more about them, and I'm sure they're learning more about me. But I don't want them to sit and think about that too much. Just do what you do it really, really well, play to the best of your ability, and the rest will take care of itself. I'll ultimately make that decision, but I always say playing time is really based upon how you perform and play and your character and how you study and how you watch film, and then I just get to make the ultimate call on it. But yeah, I'm a feel guy too once we get in the game, and I'll play the hot hand a little bit if you're going. Like, I hate pulling, kid makes 2 or 3 threes and then you sub them out. I'm like, no, like, you're going, like, if you're making 2, like, you're going to play, all right? If we got a mismatch inside, I don't care how tired you are, we're going to you until, they make the adjustment. So I'll let kids play through some stuff, especially a hot hand. I'll never take them out, for that one unless they're just dog tired. But we've had kids ask to come out before, and I'll give them the no, or maybe burn a timeout. But those are pretty sacred in the women's game now with the advance late in the game too. I don't want to burn a lot of timeouts because you need them late.
One other thing here, I know the trait last year with last year's team, it seems to be applying this year, is there have been quarters where you completely shut people down. They did that last year. I think he had a 2-point quarter against Loyola. Are you seeing that from your players where you've got that ability to shut people down?
Well, yeah, we've been pretty good defensively so far. I think we're just giving up 50 a game, and I think we've given up 4 threes in 2 games combined, and they're not shooting at a great percentage. So, single-digit quarters are kind of what we talk about a little bit more probably as a coaching staff than even with the players, but we do bring that up a little bit. If you can get teams in single-digit quarters and multiple single-digit quarters, then you're probably going to have a pretty good game defensively. Now, not 2 or 4, but 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, like those types of quarters, I think give you a chance. And our offense right now is really, it's a pretty up and down. We're not very consistent yet offensively. So we need some quarters like that to kind of save us, because really through our scrimmages, these first 2 games, our offense has kind of disappeared for stretches. And so we're working pretty hard to kind of eliminate that.
When you hit those walls, is it player driven? Is it scheme?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's a turnover stretch where we're not even getting good looks, or the shot quality that we're getting isn't good enough. So showing them, hey guys, look, there's 15 seconds on the shot clock and we're taking a contested 3. Let's maybe be a little more patient. So my word has just been trust, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They just don't know either. And so sometimes they're just trying to make too many plays themselves and not trusting each other. Or trust the ball is my term. Let the ball work for you, right? It moves faster than you do. It's like the old, I'll line them up at the baseline and say, all right, you think you can dribble the length of the floor pass faster than I can throw this ball, and then no. The ball moves faster than the dribble. So let the ball work for you a little bit, and we don't do that enough, although I thought we did it better against Pitt than we did against Loyola, and then I think typically assists will show you that, but not always, because you can move the ball really well and just miss open shots, and so assists might be low. But I want to say we had 19 assists. I don't remember if that's right or not, but I think it was 19 at Pitt, and that's a pretty good number for us.
When you're in those walls like that, do you feel like you got to call a set or something to get a look that you want? Is that when you do that?
Yeah, I can. And against Loyola again, we had those lulls, and I didn't want to give away much, so I just kind of, I didn't help them there. And I could have helped him. And then Pitt went to so much zone that, I don't have that many zone sets or looks in. So we're getting a little redundant with some of our looks, maybe switching sides. I think we ran a couple man sets against Pitt's zone just because we were familiar with it. So, yeah, as we go, we can, whether it's a set or just a quick hitter or things like that, we can manipulate that to help those lulls a little bit. So I think we'll get better, yeah.
Obviously, Loyola didn't pose as much of a 4-quarter challenge as Pitt did. But how good was it for your girls to, in game 1, get that challenge down low with the Terrian girl getting the double-double? I know she came into the game last season averaging a double-double. How good is that for the development of the rebounding effort so far?
Yeah, well, we've had 2 games with really good rebounding post players. So Pitt had 2 of them in there. Terrian's been pretty good. I think she had another big double-double the next night, or the next game that they played. So, yeah, we've been challenged early in the post with some good post play. I think Youngstown's, I talked about the 6'5" kid coming in from Youngstown who can rebound it as well. So we're going to get another challenge there. So, yeah, it's great for us because we're most likely going to get it every night in the Big 12. So I think this is just a precursor for what's going to happen, once we get to Big 12 play. But we need to be a little better. We haven't played particularly well against those post players, so this will be another challenge to see if we can kind of try to shut down or a little bit of a dominant post kid. So we'll get that challenge again Sunday. But yeah, it's challenged us, and we got to be a little better from it.
I don't know if you noticed around the league, there have been some pretty impressive results so far in the first couple weeks of the season. Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, Baylor got a great one, I think, against number 4 Utah. I think they were 4 right last night, so that's a good one. So, yeah, keeping tabs on it a little bit. Penn State got Kansas the other night. That's not in the good way, but we watched because we play Penn State coming up here in a little bit. So, so that one kind of surprised me a little bit the other way because I think Kansas is a really talented basketball team this year. So, yeah, we're following along, kind of keeping tabs from a distance. Again, haven't been in the league, so I don't know it a ton yet, and being so new, it's been so much more on us. But, yeah, if I've got a few minutes here or there, I'll pull on the ESPN app or something and watch a few minutes just to kind of see what's coming.
And then down the line, next year, you got some really good teams coming in Colorado, and so it's going to be a really interesting
It's not going to get any
years.
easier, does it? Yeah, no, it'll change a little bit, and we'll figure out the schedule on how we play and where we go. But, yeah, it's a grind. And we know that, but that's why we need to be really good in the non-conference because you know what's coming. And so that's why these games become really, really important if you're talking about NCAA tournament, and net rankings, and you want to be efficient, all of that. You got to win them, but then be efficient and how you win them. That all plays into account when you're talking about NCAA tournament seeding line, those types of things. So there is a lot to play for this time of year for us, and we need to be pretty, we need to learn how to win, but to see if we can't be dominant in some of these matchups.
And I guess the other thing is variety of play, style of play. You need to see a lot of different style of play, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get that. I mean, through 11, 12 game non-conference schedule, you're going to see plenty of different ways to play. Through 2 though, it's been actually a lot of zone and 2-3 zone in the half court. So through 2, it hasn't been a lot of variety, but at some point it's going to come. Yeah.
Any more questions? We will see you Sunday.
Yeah. All right, we'll do it. Thanks everybody.